But I want to start off with, I think, the elephant in the room, probably what all the listeners want to listen to, right? How did you build an app that managed to get 200,000 users? So, for some context, there's the app that I'm talking about here is called God in a Box. So, I think all of you are aware of ChatGPT and how you're able to access it. Now, just imagine ChatGPT in WhatsApp. So, that's what God in a Box does. And Rohan was part of the core team that built this and scaled this to around 200,000 users. So Rohan, the question I want to ask you around this is, what were some interesting consumer insights that you got?
Yeah, so I guess just before the consumer insights, I'll preface by saying that yeah, ChatGPT is one of the fastest growing tools ever out there. It outpaced even like Instagram's growth and a bunch of other tools. There's a beautiful graph that captures this. So we saw an opportunity where we're like, okay, you know what? There is some friction in accessing ChatGPT and having to sign in into OpenAI's website, and you're sort of constantly logged out every 4 or 5 hours. And that seemed like a good opportunity for us because we thought, hey, people prefer WhatsApp pretty much all over the world. I think US is an exception because iMessage is more common and because iPhones are more common, but the rest of the world WhatsApp is like ubiquitous, right? It's huge. So we said, okay, let's take a jab at it. We don't know where it'll go, but we know we use WhatsApp for mostly everything. I use WhatsApp for my to-do lists, for my reminders, I keep important notes and documents like my Aadhaar card. So it's really handy. It's much better to access WhatsApp than anything else. So we're like, you know what, it's a no-brainer. Let's just try. If we're first to market, maybe something happens, right? Maybe something good happens. So yeah, we decided to build that. And so in terms of consumer insight, yeah, that's a really good question because yeah, we've noticed a few things, and specifically noticed that in consumer, people are not in general very engaged or active when they're on their phone, right? And this is like an important distinction that we made and we understood, which is, most people on their phone, they're not really active. They're not making split second decisions and like thinking about what their next move is, who they're going to talk to, all of that. Most of them, have their phones like this, and they're asleep on their bed, and it's like they're in a comatose state, right? Like they're almost in a near coma, and they're just like scrolling on Instagram,
Mm.
right? And so the question is, can your app as a consumer app hijack the scroll?
Mm.
It's a very sort of dark pattern to think about. Well, not really, but because you're kind of competing for attention, right? And that's the kind of the main thing in consumer, which is if somebody's using your app, that means they're not using Instagram, which is a huge pull because of network effects.
I'll ask you a
So
quick question over there.
yeah,
So, when we're talking about obviously consumer attention and how there is a deficit for it these days,
yeah.
what would you say ranks higher in a consumer app? Is it practical value or is it engageability, for the lack of a better word?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. Unfortunately, even though I would love for it to be the former, this is because most people, in consumer, gravitate towards a few certain things, right? So they gravitate towards mostly dating, right? That's like a big part of consumer, and Instagram is a proxy dating app. LinkedIn is, it's like a proxy dating app if you really think about it, right? Well, not really. Some people will get offended if I say that, but most of these apps are sort of.
Fulfilling a very goal, a common goal that everyone has is probably money in this case.
Yeah, yeah, so it's either dating or money or connections, which leads to money. So consumer has these very like set buckets, right? There are like 2 3 buckets. So either it helps you with your goals, or it helps you with your aspirations or your status, right? Or it helps you with dating,
Mhm.
right? And if it's not any of these, then it's utility, which is like a to-do app, right? Or something that sets reminders for you, or your calendar app. And we built something like that because GPT is mostly utility. And what we realized is, you know, if we can reduce the friction by 20%, then we can win in that utility segment. That's kind of what we understood. And yeah, because we don't do any of the others, right? We're not signaling status, we're not doing dating. So that's kind of what we realized. And yeah, so if you can hijack somebody's attention, who are scrolling on their bed, especially depending on the kind of app they're using, yeah, I guess that's a win. So